Hi, and welcome to Space Brains. It's episode 97, and we're talking about science fiction film Jung-yi. Came out in 2023.
Hi, and welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya, it's episode 97, and we're talking about science fiction film Jung-yi. Came out in 2023. In this episode, we'll reveal what we thought about the film, the ins and outs of narrative and film language, plus a nice deep dive into a specific piece of science that the filmmakers are proposing. Jung-yi is a Korean film written and directed by Yeon Sang-ho. You might recognize him from the awesome film, which we haven't actually done on Space Brains, Train to Busan, which just came out a few years ago. Big smash hit, kind of reuniting the zombie films in a new way. Well, this is his follow-up film. This is not a sequel or anything, but it's him following up his filmmaking career with another interesting science fiction.
Although there is a sequel to Train to Busan.
Well, there is, isn't there? Yeah.
But this isn't it.
This isn't it, and we're not talking about that either. We should do it. If you enjoyed that film, you may also enjoy his sort of take on more of a real artificial intelligence science fiction film.
But before we go on, this is your spoiler warning. We're going to talk all about this film. We're not going to hold back.
No.
So go back and watch the film.
Warning.
And then tune in and listen to us prattle on.
So Jung-yi is set in a post-apocalyptic near future. A researcher at an artificial intelligence lab leads the effort to end a civil war by cloning the brain of a heroic soldier, which also happens to be her late mother. What was your number one takeaway from Jung-yi, Surrey?
My number one takeaway is that in the future, when we can upload our brains, we'll be able to sell use of those brains.
Yeah.
And one of the first uses will be for porn.
Yes, that's right.
Invariably, we will be sex bots.
We will be all sex bots. If you can't afford version... What was it called in this? Was it
A, B, and C?
A, B, and C. I loved it. It was like literally... If you're wealthy, you're A, no, you won't be porn. B, maybe a little bit of porn. C, you're just porn.
Yep.
You're just
C, you're either going to be a kill bot or a porn star.
Or a porn star, yeah.
It's just the one or the other.
I liked that take in that as a small part of this film, that it was just, it was great class culture, wasn't it?
It revealed the horror, I think, because on one hand you're going, her mother is being... going to be programmed or used to program soldier bots to fight a war. But you can kind of think that's kind of glorious, a little bit honourable. It's like, this is going to be stopping the war. This is going to be the thing that saves us and, ends this war and conflict. And you kind of, you go, it's a bit terrible that she's being exploited for violence. Mm. But then, of course, war finishes. What else could a famous, good-looking hero woman be used for?
Sex bots.
Sex bots. Why not?
Of course.
And of course, there will be companies that will do that. They won't. They'll go, oh, there's dollars in that. And we can't sell her as a weapon anymore. Let's sell her as a weapon.
Yeah, and just the principle of, you being uploaded to their system, it's kind of it's the terms and the conditions that we have currently, isn't it? You sign up to social media, you sign up to some website, or, you want to access some sort of thing and they want to know everything about you, the privacy kind of stuff, the data that we hand over. And the payoff is we get access to this piece of technology. And, in this case, it's kind of taken that to that real horrific extreme of, well, we'll keep your loved one alive, but you're giving us permission to use their identity as in any way possible.
They will just be a commodity. Because A, you have full citizenship rights. Yeah, you're a full person.
Yeah.
B, you're your own entity, but you're not really seen as... You don't have all the human capabilities, and so you're not given all the human responsibilities and rights. But, it's and I think B would probably be not so bad, really.
Yeah.
Probably, I think maybe alluding there to the middle class existence. If we're going to go A, B, and C, is
a little bit of freedom,
upper
bit
class,
of restrictions.
Yeah, you've got power, you've got freedom, you can have children, you can vote.
Yeah.
B, you can have a job.
Yeah.
And you can do most stuff. You're probably not going to get just killed for the fun of it.
Yeah, and you're a bit protected, yeah.
Yeah, you're a bit protected there, but probably only so far as private property is protected.
Yeah.
And C, you're just a commodity.
Yeah.
To be traded.
Yep.
And used, exploited.
Yep.
Which
In
I'm
any
pretty
way.
sure they're trying to indicate is, it's a, that's the lowest rung of society.
Yeah. Agreed. It's a good little, probably a little nod to 1984 again, isn't it? That kind of real evil side of the future technology.
Oh. Yeah. And I didn't think of it either at the time when they said, C, you could be, used and exploited and copied and sold and studied. Because at the moment you can, when you die, you can leave your body to science, as it were.
Yeah.
Could you imagine you leave your body to science and they turn it into an animatronic puppet show?
That's right.
Yeah, that's
Not the principle of it, is it? But yeah.
But they could.
They could.
You've signed over.
Yeah, I have signed over too, actually.
So tell me then, was this hope, warning, or an experiment?
I think at the end it's a hope. So
I think it's a weird hope.
It's It's a funny hope. I think if you kind of take the whole principle, the daughter and the mother relationship, and she at the end of the day, we just talked about that commodity idea. The daughter does save the mother, and there's a deeper
rescued.
and there's a deeper emotional reason there. But I think ultimately the daughter character is representing humanity in a way. We want to go further afield. We want to push the barriers. And that's a bit negative. It's got negative connotations. But I think when it came to the crux of it, when they were going to then shut everything down, it became more, well, what do we do with this artificial intelligence? It shouldn't just be a sex bot. It shouldn't just be handed over. It deserves more than that. So that's where the hope for me came in. When you get to right at the end, it's also like, the robot is free in the jungle, whatever, trying to kind of a new life, I think, is what he was probably symbolising with the way this film ends. Yeah, I think it's kind of hopeful. To me, I was hopeful at the end. It actually, this film was an interesting feeling for me. I think I really felt for her. I think he's created a character here, probably a little bit like District 9, what happens to our Victus, how he becomes the prawn and we feel for the prawns,
Yes.
I think it's similar here. I think he's given AI a very emotional connection and then we follow that through. And if you really do follow it, by the end of it, I was quite invested in this AI character.
What I found funny though, or when I say it's a weird kind of hope, is that it's usually the maternal or the paternal protection of the child that is, and the sacrifice of the parent.
Yes.
But in this case, it was the sacrifice of the child for her parent, which is, I don't know, is this a more Korean view on things? Because
could be.
She has this guilt, the Dr. Yun or whatever, I think. She has this guilt over her mother's death, and she feels that her mother was only in this war fighting to be able to afford her surgeries.
Yeah.
Which, in the end, the cancer has come back anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's almost for nothing. And so she purges her memory from her mother. And, as a parent, I'm going, no, I don't ever want to forget my children. That's a horrifying thought. But we're taking it from the point of view of this daughter who thinks that I'm giving my mother freedom. Except, it's like freedom to be something other than a mother.
Yeah.
Which is interesting as well because it's she's an artificial intelligence in a robot body. She's I don't think she's given birth to any more children.
Yeah.
So clearly that's not her purpose, which is, in many Western cinema sort of traditions, it's the other way around where
always the other way
the
around,
purpose of the parent is to have the child, whether it be the father trying to protect the kids because the mother's gone or the mother trying to protect the kids because the father's gone or however you want to look at it. And so when I got to the end, I had that a weird mixed response thinking, it's good that, Jung-yi has gained her freedom, but then I'm going, at the cost of she clearly loved her daughter so much that she was willing to go to war and fight constantly to try and save her.
Yeah.
Now she doesn't have that. You can have you robbed her of something important? Or have you in fact gifted her? Now she can, as you said, redefine, start again, go well, now I can be something other than that.
I don't have to be
who knows what I'm going to be.
thing.
It's my future is wide open.
Yep.
Which is, I think, what the director was going for, the writer was going for there is that. But I think it also is this mixed feeling that where it's sort of it's kind of good that they're free, but it's weird that the daughter sacrificed herself for the parent. That's unusual.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
I don't know Korean culture enough, so we'd need to know a little bit more about that. But in some, and again, I'm sort of broad brushstrokes here, but in, some Asian cultures, it is the children look after the parents, and they, to even the point, I know of some customs in Vietnam, in China, where on wedding days, the people getting married give money to the parents.
Yeah.
Which is really opposite of the Western culture. It's kind of oh no, give it to the bride and groom, set them up, try to give them a starting point. In those cultures, it can be a return in the other way. You've raised me to here.
I might introduce it myself.
Yeah, I think so. I think for our children, they should be paying us. So yeah, it is an interesting one. And it's also, as you're saying, if you take a Hollywood film, it's very non-Hollywood that, how many of those films has the dad or the mum, sacrifice themselves to the Terminator creature, robot, whatever,
even in that
to survive,
movie,
right?
I Am Mother, which is about an android doing some weird experiment on humans trying to grow a new civilization or something.
Yeah.
That was even the mother figure sacrificing herself in order to see the growth of the daughter, which is,
that's right.
It'd be very interesting, and I think it's not controversial when you see it in a Korean film because the whole film carries through a feeling to it and of differentness.
Yes.
But could you imagine a purely Hollywood film with Angelina Jolie and who would be her daughter would be say, I don't know any of these actors' names all of a sudden.
Yeah, someone that would be young enough to be her daughter but a big enough star power.
Zendaya. Why not?
Well, it could be probably someone like Jennifer Lawrence, couldn't it? Again,
Jennifer Lawrence,
we put her in probably. Angelina's not old enough technically, but Hollywood old enough.
Yeah, Hollywood old enough. You only needed age difference of 2 years.
10 years later.
And it can be either direction.
Yeah, that's right. Either one could play the daughter.
Okay, let's go with Jennifer Lawrence then, because we like Jennifer.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting to see it play. It would feel really weird, I think.
Yeah.
In a purely Western setting, having this same kind of thing going on.
It is, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? So, and it is a film, that's when you talk about hope, warning, experiment. It is a film that the hope side of it, I felt like by the end, it was actually a hopeful story, but it was, it kind of left you really thinking about it. It was a very legacy film, this one.
Yes, I think so.
And obviously this was your first time. What was your first impression when you kind of came out of watching it?
Well, I did get surprised that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Because it starts off as a cyber action fighting robots. This war is going on. It even sets it up saying that there's this civil war and we open up with Jung-yi waking up and fighting robots and all the rest of it through. And even when it's revealed that's a simulation, I was still kind of thinking, oh, okay, we're going to see...
We're going to go back to war.
The evolution of this android woman up to fighting the war, and then she'll discover her humanity or something or other. But it sort of took that little turn, so it kept me interested because I thought, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to sustain the action well enough, how that's going to work out.
Yeah.
But... yeah, then it took a turn, and so I was surprised and delighted. Oh, this is nice.
That's good.
It's gone on to a different view with strange, quirky characters, and it's explained why that director is quirky is because he's a robot himself, which gives me a bit of the whole Blade Runner feel. They do this ethics test, and it's kind of an interesting little twist that what's the board chairman or whatever his name, the director is the director's father in a way.
Yes,
it's That's kind of interesting the way
It was a good little sneak trick, wasn't it? That I don't even know what he was, the commander or the manager. I don't know what you call him.
He was called the director.
He was called the director. Yeah, that character. He was very flamboyantly energized from the start, wasn't he? He was a bit of comedy relief.
He was weird.
He was a bit weird. He made some awkward vibes in the silence, and I think the thing was, it was in hindsight, once we realise he's a robot, you realise, it was weird human antics, but I think he was deliberately very animated to kind of like fool us that, oh no, he's a human because he's so animated.
Yes.
He can't be a robot, you know?
You wouldn't have a robot acting so
but then
weird.
when it is revealed that he's like that, that he is a robot, it's like, oh, yeah, no, I've always thought he was a bit weird. That explains it. He wasn't quite programmed properly.
Because then we see the director of household products or whatever it is, and she comes in and she's also weird.
Yeah, she is
and
weird,
quirky,
yeah.
And then she actually makes a quip. Oh, they made one of you. You know, like you know, which sort of gave me a hint there. I thought, oh, what made one like him? What? But yeah, that was funny. Then that she came along was also. It's almost like the whole upper management is made up of these sort of weird, quirky, you know. Eccentric robots,
and it was funny because where he was super weird is very early in the film when he's like, tomorrow the military are coming, we're going to put on the lobsters and the whatever, right? Like, and he does it, and he was kind of narrating what you expect people to be like in those scenes, and like it is important. These guys fund us. We need to be over the top. We need to be. And it felt like, okay, no, he's all right. Like, he's just trying to do his job properly. He's taking this really seriously, you know. But no, turns out he was a false start for the overall CEO of the big company or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good. And did you have any science fiction-y elements that you liked in this?
There was quite a few, I thought. I thought the idea of artificial intelligence in this is pretty cool. Like the way that we've seen quite a few films that we've looked at as spacebrains. I liked that. I liked how they recreated her body, how it was only kind of like the chest and the brain. I thought that was interesting that's what they were focused on. I also think it made a lot of sense that there's a war being waged that, here's this epic commander and they took her brain, you know, and they tried to this will be the answer to solve this war, as if we just build a whole bunch of robots that are like this commander, you know, so you could imagine any commander, those famous commanders in human history, imagine if you could take their brain and turn them into 1,000 robots, you know. So yeah, I thought there was quite a bit, that simulation that they ran, the way that ran as well. We saw the simulation in reality, you know, in the version that she was seeing, the computer version, and then we saw how they did it. I thought that was a really cool, in the lab, how
sort of augmented
reality. So yeah, there was quite a few moments. I mean, it also reminded me, you know, they tell us at the start the context. What's the other Neil Plonker film that we've looked at? It was very bit similar, wasn't it? No,
the robot,
not Chappie. The
Elysium.
Yeah, yes. How we've the rich have kind of gone into space and on those kind of circular planet things.
Yeah, the rings. Yeah.
So so there was a bit of similarity to that again as well. But yeah, I think there's quite those little science elements. I think were really kind of sci-fi elements were embedded throughout this whole film.
Yeah, and I'm not sure they even had human soldiers anymore.
No.
I mean, the Jung-yi was just fighting robots.
Yes. Oh, and that other big robot thing that kind of kills her.
Oh, the dog robot.
The dog robot. Isn't that just a more sort of futuristic version of that Boston Dynamics thing?
Yes.
It was a very close relative, wasn't it? It could be its older brother or something. I was like, they've taken that. Like, he has taken that and gone, yeah, imagine if you just amped the shit out of that, you know, chuck some steroids at it, which kind of made it creepier, I think. I don't know.
It didn't have, it'd be easy to do an actual animal proportions and movements.
Well, you could do anything, right?
But it actually looked a lot more like a person on all fours, but in a slightly different... It looked shaped like a dog, but moved like a person shaped like a dog. if that's the way of putting it. So it didn't, because I've obviously seen a lot of dogs moving, and they don't move like that.
They don't move like that. No,
but a person, if you look up on YouTube, what is that, roller suit? Or
yes. You're right. Yeah,
the wheel suit, like
it's kind of like rollerblades in the elbows.
Yeah, the
and
guy,
the knees.
he's got this weird rollerblades, and it sort of elongates his forearms with wheels on the end and stuff, so he can go on all fours and he goes down and lies. It sort of moved a bit like that.
It did, didn't it?
A
Actually,
bit like
now that you're saying,
So,
very creepy.
That's pretty good.
So plenty of sci-fi elements for me. What makes this a science fiction film then? Sorry.
Well, this is, of course, the classic trick of taking a social concept along with a technological concept, but then using the fiction element to push it up to 11.
Yep.
So you could just sort of say, hey, let's have a bit of a look at a mother-daughter dynamic. Where the mother has sort of died and the daughter is dealing with her memories. And that could be through diary entries and journals and talking with relatives and friends.
Very exciting.
That she sort of, it almost sort of sounds more like one of these, I'm sure there are plenty of movies where this is the case, where someone is through clearing out the old house, it comes across
diaries,
these things, and we get little flashbacks and visions of what's going on, and through this process, the daughter will come to terms with mother's death or something, whatever, or she'll be empowered.
Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, the Lake House movie, where they write letters to each other and they're not in the same time.
Something. Yeah. That's the thing. But this year they've gone, okay, well, that's kind of cool. But there's another interesting concept of what about uploading your brain to a computer. And the social ramifications of that. Yep. It would allow the daughter to interact more fully with her mother. But let's crank that up a little bit, so there's different levels, A, B, and C. And, well, mum's C, of course. And she's been used as a weapon. And he's like, so it's just kind of like taking these science elements, which could have been used in a far more tame, ordinary drama sense. But they've gone, now let's push it to an extreme level.
Yeah.
And that will really allow us to explore some of these concepts more fully and how we interact with each other in this, what could be a future that we could encounter. So, I mean, and there's different styles of science fiction, the way you might want to do it. And this one seems to be a popular way of doing it, is take your situation and then add your science elements into it, amp them all up, see how that turns out. And it will change. Like if you took out all of the science fiction elements in this, you wouldn't be telling this story, because how could you have that ending where the mother no longer remembers the daughter and thus is free and immortal? Like,
you have to have some sort of science.
That's going to be science fiction. Like, you can't do it. You could only have that one where the daughter becomes free or accepting of the situation.
Definitely.
So it's a pretty interesting thing, and it's what I do like about science fiction, is it allows you to go to these levels. I mean, you can have subtlety, but I also like the fact that it's, some elements of it aren't subtle. And
I mean, what I want, just springboarding off what you're saying there, what makes this a great film is that if you could make this a science fiction film with all those elements you've talked about, but not have the mother-daughter storyline, and it's just all the action.
Yeah.
But then what is that then? What are we going on? What kind of journey? The journey could be to try to make this soldier work.
Yeah.
But you take away the mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah, you
right?
wouldn't...
Like, you'd lose that emotional beat, don't you?
You could have a fun movie.
Yeah.
But it would be more of a summer action hit.
That's right.
Rather than this one, which I think has a little bit more chops, a bit more to it, that allows you to sort of give it a bit of longevity, talk about it.
That's right.
We say, yes. So what else are we doing just lately? What's been going on in the Mark Regan filmmaker world?
Well, in mine, I'm continuing the creative point of view of writing. So I've been writing like crazy, which is really good. Been sticking to a timetable of writing. So do some writing, as I said last time, on my commuting to and from Perth, and for my day job, and also I've got some set time on the weekend. At the moment, I'm just sticking to all short films, so short film scripts. And I think I mentioned last episode, kind of, it was really good. I collated out. Oh, sorry. What I did was I've really have honed in what my themes that I want to talk about. And then, because for me, I get ideas come to me, flow to me, and I write them all down. But then it was like, hang on a minute. Now I know what I want to focus on as a filmmaker. These ideas are great, but they're not my ideas. And then these ones are my ideas. And so like I sort of did that a couple of weeks ago. And then since then, I've got my little batch of, I think I've got about 6 short films. Scripts, I'm not saying it's films, and then I've just been actually honing them. So I'm actually like writing them all out, one by one. So as inspiration strikes, grab one, start typing, write. And it's going quite good actually. So it will be interesting probably then in a couple of weeks to then sort of decide, okay, that one, I should make that one. Yeah. And interesting enough, before even watching this film, one of them is about a sex bot.
Oh.
Yeah. So who knows? Watch out, Jung-yi.
Hey.
How about yourself? Anything in the Surrey
no sex bots
land
for me,
of fiction? No
apparently.
sex bots for you. Oh.
Well, I mean, primarily
I'll get my credit card out.
this past sort of 10 days or a couple of weeks, I finally managed to get myself some COVID, which is...
It's a sci-fi.
You've finally done it.
Yeah.
I didn't miss
You're
the
a
pandemic.
laggard, as they say, don't they, in the tech world?
I avoided it for 3.5 years.
They don't even test it anymore, do they? They don't even have the
it's-
testing clinics, and you get it now.
Yeah, I get it now. But so I've sort of been sleeping a fair bit. But having said that, I did manage to make use of some AI image generation to come up with a logo for my son's web design business.
Cool.
And I can definitely see the, high-paid, good graphic designers who've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah,
Because... they've got artistic touch and vision and, the subtlety to turn an idea from something that's kind of cool into something that's really good.
Yeah.
But the $5, $10 Fiverr jobs that you get on there, there's no point. Because I just jumped onto one of these image generation places, started giving some prompts about some logo designs, came up with about 4 or 5 logo designs, sat down, my son picked out the ones he liked the best. I just refined it a little bit with some image, software. And it's not the world's greatest logo, but it looks like a logo and it does the job and it didn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
So,
It's crazy,
that's a great way of getting started. Down the track, we could hand it over to someone and pay a couple $1,000s and get it, sort of juiced. But for the time being, that was pretty good. And it's pretty fun, actually. It was great sort of showing my son how to do that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
He could realise that you don't have to be a good artist to be able to get something. Because that's always been the barrier. It's came down with things like Photoshop and things where you could kind of, start using line drawings and fills and airbrushes and stuff. And now it's just that extra step now where you can say, give us a logo of a dinosaur skull.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll just tidy that up and put some text on it. And, well, there we go. We have a logo.
And I think it's a good lesson to say to anyone out there that you can just start, but, you can just begin now. There's some of those accessibility barriers, whether AI is the answer or not, like in what you're just even saying, but the accessibility barrier, even things like Canva now versus Photoshop, like it wasn't that long ago that you had to kind of know Photoshop and InDesign to create a logo. Yeah. Now, even in something like Canva, you could come up with a logo yourself.
Oh,
and you don't have to know, you don't have to be, a tech whiz in Adobe. You can just kind of play around in Canva and it's very much more user friendly, I suppose, I'm getting to. And there's just not that same level of is it going to be as professional as Adobe? No. But is it good enough? Yeah.
Yeah, it's good enough to get you going because half the time you just want to get going. You got to get some movement. If you sit there for months trying to come up with a logo, then are you really doing anything?
Or if you think you need, I need to spend $5,000 at a graphic designer. Sure, you spend that money, you're going to get something amazing. Talented graphic designers, but you need that $5,000?
Well, this is the other thing, though, of course, is from the AI prompts to come up with some basic logos and so forth, now you might actually have a better idea of what your image looks like, and you might well go, my initial ideas are really rubbish.
Yeah.
And had you gone $5,000 graphic designer, maybe they're just working with your initial ideas and they're trying to polish a turd.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get to play around with a bit of AI image generation, a bit of manipulation, photo manipulation,
smell
stuff,
that turd a mile away.
you could end up going there going, that just doesn't work. Or you might go, yeah, that's kind of the essence of what I want, but I want it to look cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you could take that design to someone who actually knows what they're doing.
Yep.
And say, hey, what do you think? These are the sorts of colours and ideas and shapes I'm looking for. And then, the designer can probably go, I can work from this.
Yes, that's right.
Now it's not just sort of, they're not working directly from the text prompts you're giving.
It's about the vibe.
I want like a cool vibe with some hip colours. Okay, I'll try to be cool and hip.
Giving me nightmares. It's kind of there's bits of that in my current job of people telling me they want things like that, and I'm like, stop it. Give me more direction. I need more direction.
Or just make it pop.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. We need it to be more modern.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, modern, but that could mean like a million things. Come
like
on,
retro modern?
Yeah.
Do you want to look like an Apple
anyway, I
shop?
won't go down that path. Yeah. I don't need to go down that path.
But anyway, yes, we also have the film festival.
The film festival, yes.
We've now got some locked in names.
We have announcements.
So we have, of course, a writing workshop. This is going to be a 2-hour-long hands-on effort. So you're going to actually be, if you turn up to this, you'll be getting a trained and experienced writing instructor.
Ooh.
He's written numerous works, both fantasy and science fiction. He works at the university teaching writing of all things, so he knows how to do these things.
You read his bio; it's incredible. It's an incredible.
He's
bio.
done a whole heap of stuff.
Yeah,
recently released what do they call a compilation or an aggregation or a what are those anthology?
Anthology.
That's an anthology of science fiction and dark fantasy sort of stuff.
Exciting.
Which is really exciting, and that's Stephen Dedman. He's a local WA writer and teacher and science fiction fan. He'll be doing the writing workshop.
Yep.
So if you came along last year, you would have gotten some great tips and stuff from Samantha Murray.
Yep.
This year, you're going to get a chance to exercise some of your writing skills.
Yeah, exciting.
We are just going to have a hands-on podcasting. So we had a bit of a technical taste last time. This time, there's going to be a bit of recording, a bit of editing, a bit of uploading. We're going to see how the whole thing actually works.
Yep.
Then we've got our red carpet affair, and we have a keynote speaker. Who do we have as our keynote speaker before the screenings?
We have sci-fi feature filmmaker Luke Spark.
Luke Spark.
So coming all the way over from Queensland, jetting in on his spaceship, and
presumably,
hopefully, be a lot cheaper if it is. And yeah, I'm super excited about this. So he's had a couple of. He's got the Occupation series. He's got a feature film that's in post right now that starred Barry Pepper and Sam Neill. That's more of a gangster kind of film, I believe. Yep. But he's in the works with a Netflix series.
Oh, yeah,
I think he's got 2 different Netflix series happening.
Something I'd love to hear more about when he comes over. It'd be exciting. But he's got something to do with. So he's doing an adaptation of a book series.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a science fiction.
Yeah, it's a book about soldiers in Vietnam that then come across dinosaurs. Yeah. So, and that's based on a novel, a sci-fi novel series. So if that kind of tweaks your interest, definitely tweaks. It's like, oh, okay, that sounds. And Netflix have signed up for that apparently. And there's another series he's doing as well, which kind of just eludes me. But yeah, there's a lot, and the next Occupation film's also coming.
The interesting thing here, so we had Ben Young last year. He went from getting noticed for a music video, basically, then doing an Australian, screen government-funded film, which won some awards. And from that, Hollywood took notice and signed him up to do Extinction. And so he's gone down that to get to Hollywood sort of direction. Luke Spark has gone self-funded independent. So he had his own movie prop and production aid company.
Yep.
And through that, he's had contacts.
Yeah.
And then he's managed to raise investment from private investors. So he's not had government or Hollywood input.
No.
And he managed to get Occupation done, which was, it's a pretty cool low budget Australian science fiction film.
Amazing one.
It's not what you're used to seeing from Australia.
No.
And then Occupation Rainfall, which is the sequel, which is that's the budget has multiplied.
Yeah.
And the special effects on that, which is just amazing. It's it pays homage to things like Independence Day and Star Wars and any number of those sort of big, exciting films.
Yeah.
But again, that was independently raised funding that he's come up with. So he hasn't gone down the Hollywood production path.
No.
He's done his own production funding. So I'd love to hear about, hopefully we'll hear a bit about that.
It's got a lot of private backing now. I think a lot of, well, I shouldn't say guys, but a lot of investors that it sounds like they're just interested in the next thing he wants to do, and they're throwing money at him because
as long as he keeps making profit for
that's
them.
right. He's returning their investment, and so they're really interested and now he's got Netflix on board, and so there's as you've just identified, it's a different pathway to being a filmmaker. So he's taken a different journey to get to that stage, and I think really for him 2023 is a massive year. Like it's sort of a culmination of maybe 5, 7, 8 years of really working all of those other things himself, that now his career is really rolling. So we're lucky enough that he's agreed to pop into Perth for a couple of days and come to the festival and give us this 30-minute kind of keynote. Hopefully there'll be a bit of question and answer time, and he's just going to partake in the film festival on the night. So we're excited about that.
He's been on an earlier episode as well. So if you go back
a long time ago,
year and a half or so ago.
I think it might have been longer than that.
2020, October 2020, sort of time.
Sometime like that.
Yeah, Occupation Rainfall had just come out. The pre-release preview came out during that Halloween festival thing going on, film festival. Anyway, so go check that interview out.
For sure.
It's quite interesting there to hear his desire to create or be one of the foundation members of the Australian science fiction epic film producers,
He's definitely and that's the thing, the next Occupation, they just announced a couple of big actors from the States are going to be in the next one, and so that sounds like it's all rolling ahead, so it's exciring stuff for him.
Indeed, it is.
For the Australian sci-fi scene.
He will be at the film festival.
He will be.
Doing a whole talk before the screenings, and then we have the screenings, and then we have some awards. And then we all high-five and say, heck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, heck yeah. HE double hockey stick, yeah.
Yeah.
Because apparently we're all PG at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes. So let's get into this plot. Because we'll talk about Jung-yi. So we'll get a bit of a discussion going on about the narrative structure, some sort of filmmaking techniques. We're going to look at any symbolism, camera and lighting, sound, editing, the way things go on in films.
We will. I mentioned Yeon Sang-ho is the writer and the director. Know him from Train to Busan is a big film that he made a couple of years ago. This film stars Kang Soo-yeon, Kim Hyun-joo, and Rai Kuyan-sang, something like that. Apologies, terrible.
If a Korean speaker would like to come on board,
I would love you to come on board and pronounce
us a hand with that.
Yeah, pronounce some of that.
Hey, we can barely say English names.
Yeah, I can English. Yeah, so I won't actually do that. I was going to give them more nicknames, and I don't think that's appropriate. This film was distributed by Netflix, filmed and created in South Korea. It is in Korean, so either get subtitles going or those voiceover I think Netflix offers. I saw this and I was a bit excited to begin with, but it has a $20 billion Korean dollar budget.
Is it Korean?
I don't know what their money is actually now.
Won?
Yes. Okay, there you go. Which then I think is 16.3 roughly US. So a little bit lower, but that's actually quite a healthy budget.
That's decent. With some of these previous films we looked at with 5-6 million have done really well.
And again, you said Occupation. I believe the first one was that sort of $4 million budget, whereas the sequel was 15. So this is sort of a similar kind of budget to the sequel of Occupation. So probably a very healthy budget to deal with. I believe, so working with it, and you can see it. I mean, look, these kind of films now is the same as something like Occupation. I mean, they're matching what we get out of Hollywood, aren't they? Like the special effects, the acting, things like the music, the sets, the lighting. We're not. I mean, you're not seeing anything different from my point of view, and I'm looking at a lot of these things quite closely, and I think, wow, that's. So 15, 16, $17 million, I think you're going to get a pretty good film from it.
I think the only difference is, I suppose, the scope of the computer effects.
That can be
if you're looking at, like, a Marvel film, you'll have, like, some big thing swirling through a whole crowd of people with multiple heroes jumping about the place doing things. In this one, you'll get one person fighting 2 or 3 robots at a time. But, you set the scene where the person's in a smallish space with a couple of robots, and that's all you're going to be able to fit. Doesn't matter how many millions of dollars you throw at it.
That's right.
You really only going to be able to do the two. So long as you don't try to introduce, a continent shattering effect with multiple gods walking Titan-like across its surface, you're fine.
Yeah, and I mean, we get this and I know from like more lower budget, and we might have seen it with Spacebrains Festival last year, but like a lot of those special effects, which this film's full of it, it's about the computer being able to render those effects and the budget of either time, we need 6 months to render these effects, or you need a team of people working on computers to get those effects up to something that's acceptable. And you say Marvel, it's like, they can have a team of IT specialists in a room of the latest computing technology, and they give them 6 months to do that. I still remember, if you really take that first CGI was Jurassic Park, and the story is, Spielberg was, and I think her name's Kathleen Turner, is a long-standing producer with Spielberg of most of Spielberg's films. They were invited to this place and shown the render, just the sort of skeleton of a T-Rex stomping. Like walking in a motion. You can probably see this on YouTube, I would presume. I saw it on a documentary, but and it's just, and that's all they showed him, and he was just like, wow, we can use this in a film. And they gave them enough money, and they gave them 12 months to just build that. So they gave them the seed money as a company to go off and build the T-Rex for 12 months. And so this is what we mean. Like, an independent filmmaker doesn't have that kind of money in their back pocket to time, etc. So time and computer processing power. So that's what you're up against if you try to compare it to a Marvel movie, is like that sort of budgeting of computing power, isn't it? But I'm always impressed. I think this, and I will say, and we'll come to it in a minute, the start of this I thought was really fantastic. Like, I thought it was a real punch in the face, the start of this. It really showed some pretty cool special effects, and also camera work, which I'll come to in a minute. Like, in that opening segment, it pulled me in an interesting way. So we'll come back to that in a moment. So with narrative, we do like to break all of these narratives down. I think we can kind of say, hey, it's a 3-act structure. It's been around for a really long time. You got first act, second act, third act, beginning, middle, end, setup. Oh, here's the setup. What happens in the middle of the setup because we've set it up, and how do we climax that? How do we resolve the question the film is asking? And these are based on what a lot of good story and script writing teachers talk about, people like Campbell, Snyder, McPhee and Field, just to name a few, that talk about these key moments. So what happens in Act 1, sorry?
Act 1 is always the setup. Oh. It's two things. There's the setup and introduction, and then it's the inciting incident which kicks the story along. So the setup and introduction, we're going to meet characters, we're going to meet the world, and then we're going to see what the day-to-day life is, allegedly, is of the starting point of the movie. At some point, about 12 minutes, could be 15 minutes.
No.
Somewhere in that region, you're going to end up with an event that occurs or starts occurring which changes the status quo. It introduces the point of the movie. It's the point where, as the audience, you go, okay, this is what I expect this movie to progress like, and we call it the inciting incident, or sometimes the catalyst. So we might, for example, have a woman who wakes up one day and finds that all of her subscriptions to Netflix, oh my god, internet, power bills, and everything have all just cancelled.
Oh no!
And she tries to look it up. She has no identity.
Oh no!
Like, she's not on any record. She's lost her wallet. She doesn't even have her driver's license or anything like that. And whenever she goes in anywhere, no one can find her. See, that's the inciting incident, isn't it? Because you're going walking around day to day where she does a few things. Oh, I've got to pay that bill. I've got to do this. I've got to call this person. Oh, work keeps calling me about something or other. Next day she wakes up. All of that stops. And she's left. And we go, as the audience, we're going, oh, what is she going to do about this? How is she going to get her identity back?
Yeah.
Because she's supposed to, fly across the country to meet her husband, who has just come back from war, and is in a hospital on the other side of the country. So that's this big emotional thing that you've got to do. How's she going to do it? And indeed, we'll have a little debate there. She'll go, oh, do I just give up? Do I sit here and really try to convince people to talk to me? Or do I just throw all that to the wind and just make my best way across the other side of the country, try to get airplane tickets because, you've got no ID, maybe rent a car, but how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Perhaps she's got to make friends with people, and she decides to do that because that's the debate.
Yeah.
Will she, won't she? Yes, she will, because we want the film, which gives us this break into an act 2. What's that all about?
Well, it's playing out the whole scenario that you've just set up, or any film sets up, is, okay, we've had this catalyst moment with the characters debated, they've decided to go on this journey, and then now that's what we're doing. We're going on the journey. So that's what we might call the fun and games, or, the actual play out of the story, the middle bit, the chunky stuff, the interesting stuff. We want to know what is going on with this character. So if she's now decided, I have to get to my husband, stuff bureaucracy, I'm not going to sit here and wait for them to find my ID, she goes on the journey.
She does.
Now, I would say straight away from what you've told me, she ain't getting on a plane, and she ain't getting on a train, and she ain't getting on a renting and a car. So it's not trains, planes, and automobiles. It's like now she's going to have to get across the country the old-fashioned way. And I suppose this is where, if we went back, maybe in the setup, you find out that she's a bit of an introvert, and she's someone that doesn't trust people, and she's someone that, I don't know, always works by herself, right? Because then now in the fun and games, the only way she's going to get across the country is basically making friends with people. And
trusting them. And I think she's going to have to probably decide to do something a little bit maybe technological. Maybe she's going to... She goes, you know what? Part of her job is she works with troubled teens.
Okay.
Because it's always good to have a little sidekick involved here.
Yeah.
And you can't just have someone who's just really capable and knows everything. Troubled teens. She remembers one troubled teen that she worked with, this young man who is a bit of a hacker.
Oh, right.
And so she's gone, hey, my identity's been deleted and I need to get onto, a train or an aeroplane or something or other. I'm going to go see if this guy can help. And so we get a bit of a B story going here where she meets this guy who doesn't want to help, but, she has been trying to help him. And when she explains what's happened, he's intrigued just by the challenge of it.
Yeah.
At the moment, he's not really interested in doing good for anyone. He's more interested in going, hang on, someone has just done something that I don't think can be done.
Yeah.
How's this going to happen? And so we're going to have like a bit of a buddy story as they travel along.
Buddy travel.
He's going to be initially trying to do illegal stuff.
Yeah.
Like nicking stuff and scamming things and so on.
She doesn't want to do that.
And she's going, no, you can't do that and all the rest of it. And you're going to have you fun and games, isn't it? Like, it could even be humorous or it could be quite serious. But you're going to get this midpoint where it seems like, they managed to get on board a train, say, and they're traveling and it seems like they've had a victory. And that's your midpoint. Mm-hmm. They're traveling along on this train. Apparently, it's just going to smooth sailing.
Yeah, they're going to make it to the husband, no problems.
Yes, but it doesn't happen, does it?
No, it's not going to happen.
No, we get a down point.
Well, maybe because he's been inventing, some of these humorous little tweaks around the law that, well, I don't know, FBI, the national security have actually been traced in it, and well, they're going to stop the train and they're going to, they're going to board it, aren't they? Looking for these two.
I think particularly because she's of interest.
Yeah, yeah, and well, this is the thing. They also know why her identity was wiped in the first place. Whether it was them or not, who knows? But yeah, so they're going to have to get off the train because that's the end of that journey and get there some other way. And maybe this is where, as I said before, they've got to kind of lean on the fact that she doesn't normally talk to people outside of her zone, but she has to. So at a truck stop, she befriends a truckie for a ride. Yeah, and they go on that, and that's fine. But the FBI are just kind of sitting on their tail, aren't they, in helicopters or
the tail. The truckie kicks them out.
Yep, truckie kicks them out after the hacker tried to hack the truck or something like that. He goes too far, right? Like he's got to go a bit too far.
Yeah, as the audience, you're sitting there waiting for him to go a little bit too far each time. And he goes a bit too far, hacks the truck, it crashes.
Yeah.
The truck driver's not dead or anything, no. He's got a banged head and there's blood coming out. There's clearly needs hospital.
Damage the truck.
But the helicopter's coming to...
Yeah,
the black unmarked helicopter's flying in.
That's right.
They got to run for it. This is the bad guys closing in because we had it kind of smooth sailing after the midpoint, and then after the midpoint, it's like everything is going to start failing. Bad guys literally or figuratively will be closing in. And we're going to get to the point where the two of them are in a culvert by the road and it's pouring rain outside, of course. And so there's water rushing through here, but they manage to get into the culvert and they think, and then all the rats come through and this is kind of...
And, well, actually, what happens then is the key FBI guy...
Oh.
He's there. He's already there in the tunnel. And he says to her, you come with me and I can tell you all the answers. And the hacker guy goes, don't go with them. It's a trick. And so she's at this real bottom, and he's like, I can take you to your husband. I can take you right there. We've got the helicopter out here.
But FBI guys going to think, that guy there is actually a wanted terrorist.
Yeah, that's right. So do you want to go down with him or you come with us?
You remember that plane crash that happened? Yeah.
And this is where, I don't know, they've got to, so she's at this bottom of the pit, right? Like, that's the thing. So, and, the devil, it's the devil on the shoulder, isn't it? And the hacker's like, well, I've got nothing to offer you except for we can maybe, he's realised on his GPS that there's a little escape route because there's rats here. There's a way out, another way.
Rats must be going somewhere.
So trust me or don't trust me. And so she obviously trusts the hacker.
Has to trust the hacker.
Yeah, and in doing that, then you come out the other side. They do go through the rat tunnel, whatever.
Yes.
It's the fugitive. He's jumping out of the water thing, right? Like too high up. Impossible to survive,
and
kind
it
of thing.
Looks suspiciously like a dummy thrown off a cliff.
Right. There's two dummies thrown off this cliff, and but that is taking us now into Act 3, basically, because she's gone with the hacker,
and she's got this plan.
Yeah, and maybe after that they realise she can see them go back. They're not the FBI. It's a trick. They're not. They're bad guys. Whatever. Yeah. They're just like they're the people that wiped her identity.
Yes, they are.
So, there's something to do with her husband and the war or whatever, right? So suddenly it's coming together. So she's on the right side. The hacker was telling the truth. And so this is where at the bottom of the lake, they're no longer the fake bodies. They make a plan to get to the husband. They've got to get him out of the hospital. Yeah. Get away from these people. They're going to disguise
themselves.
They're going to cover that, as doctors.
The hacker's kind of learning a bit of ethics there.
Yeah, that's right.
You can see he's got the option there to do something bad.
Yep.
Cause a crash to give them a distraction.
Yeah.
But then he decides that he won't cause the crash, and in fact he just sort of sets all the traffic lights to red and so everyone stops rather than making them all green and making them all crash.
Yeah.
And so he's a bit of character development there.
Yeah.
And they rush off and they're going to manage to make it to the husband. Turns out the husband's not a real person.
No.
It's actually, they get into the room where they think it is, and there's like a sarcophagus type thing, like a life supporting type thing. Turns out it's actually a computer. Yes, and she in fact has had a mind swap. Her real identity is in the computer.
Oh no.
And she has like this secondary one, which is like her cover, her deep cover. So it turns out she is in fact maybe she's a double agent. And this is a real blow here. The finale where you're thinking, got to the husband, somehow everything's going to be all right.
And in reality, her original person was going to arrest the hacker.
Yes.
She was undercover to actually arrest the hacker, and she actually works with the bad guys.
Yes, so a
bit
of Total Recall going on.
Yeah, that's right. Now in this new incarnation, she doesn't want to do that. She's realising which side is she really on. Yeah,
and she chooses not to re-upload. So she does the Total Recall.
Yeah, that's it.
She actually prefers her new identity.
She prefers her new identity.
Her cover identity.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're going to end off, though, not knowing whether that's her cover identity or whether they...
Yeah, we could.
The one in there.
Well, I was going to say that, there's always that extra plot twist would be the extra plot twist. At the end there would also be the husband is actually just like another spy. Like he never went to war. That was all just like some sort of cover story. So she has to totally decide, I don't even want to be with the husband and that lifestyle, you know what I mean? And then she's with the hacker.
Yes, so going to go freedom hacking.
Freedom hacking, yeah. And then so with that, she goes, you know what, do something a little illegal, and he does, and the hospital goes into meltdown and they escape. Not hurting anyone, but just
the lights dim down and go on red, and like
they vanish like a magician.
and off they rush. Okay.
And it's a bit like, the Matrix at the end, like we're here to reveal you to the rest of humanity. That's how they're going to get everyone.
I think we might need to work a little bit on some of those plot points there, maybe introduce things there, but you can see where these acts and beats are going. Yes. Very good. So let's talk about this story.
Yeah,
Jung-yi. We're going into Jung-yi. We have an opening image in this opening scene, which we sort of mentioned a bit. This is where Jung-yi... Let me have a look at that. We have Battlefield of Destroyed Robots. Yep. And then there's a sleeping human.
We do.
Eyes closed and eyes open. And this is a popular... I mean, it's sort of a cliche is to have a character waking up as a start of a film. But on the other hand, it's also a nice symbol or metaphor is that her eyes are closed and she opens them into this world.
Yep.
And at the end, her eyes are open. She's staring out at the horizon. She's standing up. She's fully awake. Yeah. And so that's kind of that
bookends.
Bookends we have here. So in this one, it's destroyed robots. We don't know that this is just a simulation at this point.
No.
And we just straight into this action of this woman doing this amazing fight with robots shooting them. She's got to get a fuel rod or something or other, and has to then smash this robot down to get a shot at the battery pack on his back.
The weird creepy dog robot thing.
Yeah, weird creepy dog robot. And then she lines up for the shot, but then she's like distracted by like a little keyring dolly. Yeah. And that distraction is just long enough for a robot to then shoot her hand. And her fingers, she looks at her fingers and there's like sparks come out because she's
a robot.
A robot.
Yeah.
And that's when the simulation stops at this point.
Yeah.
Which is quite good. It's very exciting, opener to the film.
I wanted to say, like, in terms of film language, that scene to me really stood out. It's a little bit similar to, the Matrix doing their 360 camera stuff. Like, I'm not saying it's revolutionary filmmaking here, but... like that was with The Matrix. But there's definitely, to me, and interested to know how you felt, but it's like it really drew me into that scene and the way that the camera work zoned around. I mean, I'm not a massive computer game player, but it felt like a computer game. It felt like this first-pointer shooter stuff. The way the action was when she fought the robots, the way she jumped around, the way the camera moved with her... I think it was really kind of a very cool action scene, like, again, we get quite often these things, don't we, like out of stuff like Japanese anime or Korean cinema in this case, or Nigerian cinema, that suddenly someone does something like that where the action is really ramped up. Now, I'm not watching all the latest action, so I don't really know. I might be a little bit out of touch here, but it was a real high-impact action opener.
What I liked also is it cut it off before it got boring.
Yes.
Because there's plenty of action films that I've seen where the action sequence of the sword fight or whatever it is
goes on and
the
on.
lightsaber fight, it just goes on, and you sit there like you're almost like checking your watch. How long is this gonna? Do we have like another 2 minutes of this back and forth? Like superhero movies get this all the time with the two indestructible creatures fighting. You're like, okay, we get the idea. Can we move on to something else? But this one here was quite good because it got to that, revved up to the high point, and then she wasn't just sort of shot, but it was revealed that she's some sort of a robot, which surprises her.
Surprised me.
And as the audiences would go, oh, actually, no.
She's the robot,
That was an exciting entry, and now there's an exciting twist, and you go, oh, okay, so what's the next part of this film? I want to know what the next bit is. It was a very good sort of lead-in.
And to me, and we've been told some text, to me that's basically then the catalyst, is that she is a robot. So it's like then brought into the lab and we see that she is a robot and is a test simulation. To me, that's the catalyst.
Yeah, and I thought, because I was wondering, I always ask myself this question as the audience members, like, what am I expecting this film to be about? And so during the opening scenes, I was sort of expecting it to be a war film.
Yeah, war.
The bit where it really changed was when they presented to the military. So it's still up to that point, you're still kind of going, oh yeah, it's going to be that. But when it was revealed that the lead scientist was the daughter, that was enough of a difference there. Like that I think was the completion of the catalyst for me. It was like, okay, so what's going to happen here? How is this daughter, mother, war hero, robot go to war? I want to see how this turns out. So that's where I wanted to see in part two, in act two, if you like.
And I guess that's the thing that the debate then was, does the daughter keep experimenting? Because the other scientist is very much like, terminate it, next robot,
Yes.
And we have a sequence where you see the brain kind of being built, right? Like by the robots and stuff. And so, the question there is like, does the daughter keep experimenting on the mother?
Yeah, how many of these versions is she going to go through? Or is she kind of looking for a particular version of this? That's her real mother. Is she looking for? Yeah, it was interesting also to know. I guess the circumstances of how this mother became a robot and why she's doing any of this. So there's a lot to go through. Yeah,
and to me, like, even they were presenting to those military for funding, more funding. And they raised a couple of, she lost in real life. How is this AI supposed to win? And so it was a really interesting kind of question to me. It was the debate there that, should you go on with this experiment?
Could an AI win where a human can't, or does it take a human?
Or does it learn and then therefore it does become smarter, and then once you do it, like, I guess that was their original intention. That's the experiment. So, it was kind of a very clear cut like debate of, do you keep doing this? And we kind of get the impression that for the daughter, there's more to it. Like that's what's sort of being led there, that she's motivated a bit differently, but everyone else is more like, she was a great warrior, and if she could defeat the mercenaries, then all the robots could save us. So there was kind of like the driving force, but there was also then that question, like we saw, once she shot off her finger, she was shocked, like it was horror that she's a robot, and so then you're asking the ethical question, aren't you? It's like, how ethical is this? To put this woman through, even if it's just a simulation, like every simulation she's going through, it's like a nightmare, isn't it? It's a reoccurring nightmare for this person. So do you go ahead? And the answer is, we do go ahead.
Keep pushing forward, because we want to see Act 2.
Yeah.
And Act 2 brings us in and we learn a bit more about
the whole thing,
the whole scenario, and the daughter who has to do an ethics test, which was just straight out of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Similar sort of questions. You see a turtle in the desert. What do you do? Pardon me.
That's right.
Yes, and you see and she's asked these various questions, and she has
weird
to do
questions.
weird questions, and she's at home, and she doesn't. I don't know, doesn't seem to be enjoying her home life. She's really just working for Kronoid, which is I think that's a typically not made by a Western name. It'd be
doesn't sound very pleasant, but does it? Kronoid.
Kronodyne. It would be dinoid. There's got to have the word "dine" in there somewhere. If it was Western. Yeah, she goes along. She does this ethics test, and we learn. I believe we learned that her cancer has come back. Yeah. So we can
the doctor is a robot.
Yeah, and then that's really cool because then the bench pulls away and the doctor pulls back and the doctor's just a robot. Because when he was presenting it, I thought, geez, he's real matter of fact about this.
He is.
And he's a robot. Just get a robot doctor, which clearly indicates the levels of wealth here. Was because he also presents the A, the B, and the C.
He does,
which sort of is educating us about the mother was obviously a C. Because
so was that doctor.
And so is that doctor, I would suggest, yes.
Yeah, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or whoever they thought, that looks like a good doctor.
Yes.
Because he might not have been a doctor. You'd imagine a doctor would be an A.
Yes.
But, in Western culture, be an A, but it maybe not in Korean culture. But it was like his face was someone that was a C.
Yeah, and his voice and
everything. Yeah, it's kind of, once you start to realise that, it's very creepy. But and I found that just a little note there was a really creepy last line. He says, "I will always be here for you," and then that's when the desk pulled away and he's a robot.
Yeah,
and she kind of walks away very disenchanted by it all.
Yeah,
and I don't think I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like we say the doctor's manners, bedside manners and stuff. It's like, well, yeah, a robot's not going to have that, is it?
No, no. It's an interesting act too, because we do see a bit more of
another experiment,
the experiments and things, which is what we're sort of hoping for. We're looking to see a bit of progress or something.
And what would she in that second version? Does she get blown? What happens in that? She gets shot.
Yeah, well, she's
damaged.
Starts off. Oh yeah, they're going to do a repeat, and the guy says, "Well, shoot her in the leg."
Yeah, that's right.
Before we start.
Yeah,
and you can see, Yun, I think is the doctor's name. She's like the scientist's name. She's like, a kind of a bit
horrified by that.
Just going to shoot my mum in the leg. Okay,
yeah.
But they shoot her in the leg, and they do through the process notice she doesn't win, but they notice there's this other section of the brain. So there's the pain and the motivation, and there's this yellow section.
Yeah.
Which, maybe the yellows is the key to this. But, she loses that one.
Yeah.
And then, that doesn't go well. And we meet the chairman.
Yeah.
Don't we? And that's kind of a fun encounter there, whereas the director is put on pause. Yeah.
The blinking eye.
And because he was just carrying like a turkey and he was worshipping the chairman. And we meet the chairman. The chairman's like a weird, I guess he's sort of the Korean version of the Musk, Bezos, Bill Gates, that sort of tech whiz billionaire person.
But there is this connotation again, because he's got his big picture on the wall, which is very propagandist.
It looked very
he looks younger.
Communist propaganda.
He's younger and he's stronger, whereas this man comes in, he's definitely older, grey hair, weaker.
Yeah.
The director character had been very flamboyant and over the top, but when he gets paused like that, to me it was like, there was a real, okay, and he explains, we kind of created robots already, this is the image that I've created that's I thought would be a winnable character.
Yeah.
That's from the CEO character, but he's like, well, he's not. He's a kind of annoying, right? It's quite funny, that scene.
Yeah, and because I think the idea is that the director was modelled off the chairman, to some extent. That was some sort of a template was used.
Yeah.
Because the idea is, I guess, is the chairman has grown up to become the leader of this company, so you want his management to be like that as well. But maybe the management's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we learn here, of course, that the experiment's coming to an end. So we're hitting midpoint area here. So we've... In fact, directly midpoint, isn't it?
It's a false midpoint. Yeah.
Just we've discovered this yellow segment of the brain. So there's
some sort of progress.
Sort of actually, this is what we've got to experiment on. But now you've only got one more experiment We're closing up. The war's finished.
Yep.
Well, we don't need to win the war anymore. It's ended. Finally, after 40 years. And they're going to move into domestic products.
Yes.
Which, as we learn, one of the domestic products and for her mother is a sex bot.
It is.
Which, for the daughter, is just horrifying. Which
is a bit more bad guys closing in.
Yeah, that's a bit further on. But
in that moment, it's definitely a crushing blow to her because it's like, well, yeah, you got a couple more days of funding, maybe one more chance of experiment to get your mum back.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen?
It's not real, so to her, it's the end of the journey in a way. And where does she go from there? As part of them moving into this next part of the film with the bad guys closing in, we learn that as a girl, she was very sick. She had lung cancer, and to do the surgery, the only way to do that and to pay for it was for her mum to be join the military, and that is that real poverty class scenario that we find in military, isn't it? That quite often it's the poor people that go and be the soldiers because it's a way out of poverty. You're going to get a good wage, you're going to get fed, your family might get looked after, and so this is done in a sci-fi element, and I think it was interesting that because it was a bit of a bleaker version of what we'd been shown because the mum, the mercenary, she's been shown that she's a great warrior. She fought this battle all these years ago. They've seen her that she's obviously very intelligent, but then here we're being told now that, she only joined it because she had to. Yeah. Wasn't like she was a natural born killer.
And of course, once she lost that last battle, her hero status sort of wore off a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is really unfair because all the way up to then is like... Yeah, public sentiment, though, it can change very quickly.
It can. So, yeah, it's kind of like a bit of downfalls that way, and that the only way to pay is to do this ABC thing that we talked about. So she was deemed C, and they could do whatever they want with her. So, again, it was like, to me, it's like another negative down. It's another bad guys close in because it's like, so not only did she only join the military to help the child, but then she's died in military, and because... she's a C. Yeah. They can do whatever the hell they want with her body, actually. So this is why the experiment is actually happening. It's not anything sentimental. It's literally...
There's no glory involved.
No, there's no... then like we talked about early in this episode, they can just do whatever the hell they want with her body, and then that's where it goes. It snowballs downwards as in, she's going to be a sex bot. She's going to be a robot.
Because we get like a more brutal test. The guy... after she loses the battle that time, he's trying to get this yellow part of the brain stimulated. So he goes up and cuts off her arm while she's awake and shoots her in the leg again.
Tries to get that yellow bit going.
Yeah, and it's sort of after this when he goes away that the daughter realizes that yellow was that her mum lost that mission because she was distracted by she saw the doll. And she thought about her daughter, and that's what distracted her. So the daughter realizes that her mum didn't come back because she'd given her this lucky charm, as it were. Yeah. Which that would be kind of heartbreaking to think that the reason you lost your mum is because you gave her this thing. It was she saw it as her fault. And again, she goes on then to she's trying to work out how she can solve this problem. And she discovers, she goes around to her fellow scientist who said that he's a real fan of the mum and all the rest of it. And she goes around to his place and there's like party music going on. And she goes in and finds a replica of her mum in lingerie. Yeah. And he goes, no, it's not what you think. And he's like, I have a feeling it is exactly what we think. But it kind of actually wasn't what we thought. Yeah. Because it sort of was, but it was like, no, she's going to be a domestic unit. Yeah. As it were, and this is one of the options is a sex domestic unit. Yeah. There's probably going to be other options like,
a cleaning robot.
Martial arts teacher. Yeah. Or just, a military strategy teacher or something a little bit more sensible like that. But certainly
one option is lingerie.
One option is, she's kind of popular and she was good looking. Yeah. So there's a certain, population of the audience who will pay money for that. Yeah. And so this, as you said, this is, bad guys are coming. Things are getting worse. Like the experiments are running out. The last one was quite brutal. She learnt that she was the reason for her mum's failure.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think at this point she's starting that yellow part of the brain was her. And she's why her mum failed.
Oh, totally. At this point, that's what she has realised.
Yeah.
So then it's like, we're going to do this final... She pushes for one more.
Yeah.
And not revealing her plan, but, you know, and the director's like, oh, we'll just get on with it, do it. You remember? Like, it's the last day. Who cares? Let's just do one last one. And she runs the segment. And so to me, this is kind of moving into the final act because she has a plan. We don't know it, but you can tell she has some sort of
she's confronted
plan.
the death, you know, which is finally where she sees that her mum is just a commodity and it's like, you know, she loves her mum.
Yeah.
And doesn't want to see her just in every household, you know, doing the dishes or, I don't know, working as a sex, you know, robot. You know, like that's just kind of not what she has in her mind for her mum.
No. Well, because we know through this film that even if it is just AI, there's a part of her mum that would be in every single machine, right? Like the memory of her would be there. And so, yeah, she sets the plan to, I guess, escape.
Yeah, and at the end of it, like, so after, I think it was at the end of that experiment where the guy cuts the arm off and the leg and leaves her with this body, which she's supposed to terminate, but she doesn't destroy the brain. She deletes the yellow bit, which is her.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, the alarms go off because it's like, what's going on? This is not the right thing. And, you know, the soldiers come in, they get beaten up. And she swapped her brain into a fresh body, like just a nondescript. So it's no longer human looking. It's a humanoid, but it's no longer the human looking body. Which I think is interesting. I think it's part of the symbolism of her getting a fresh start is that she's no longer looks like she used to look.
No.
She's no longer that person. She's now a new being completely.
And they have this, like, she fights those robots, swaps the brain, the police come in, she escapes, like, oh, it's, you know, not the mum, the mum's over there. We have that great, like, fight scene, don't we, where there's, like, 10 of the mums just standing there, and they're kind of, like, beating them all up.
There was a whole iRobot bit going on there. That was exactly...
it was all identical.
Instead of the human walking through the robots,
the robots.
It was the robots who were walking through the
other
robots.
robots.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice little twist. I
thought it was too. And anyway, so they fight. They have a great fight sequence there, and then she swaps the brains and you know, alludes that she's pulling out one of those robots as the police enter. Again, I thought it was pretty cool. The police like plug into the video surveillance and they can see that she swapped the brain. So then they're attacking them. They kind of escape onto the trains and the police then come down. But on the train that the mum and the daughter on is that director.
Yeah, and this is the reversal that you've got to have in your Act 3. So it looks like her plan has worked.
Yes.
She's managed to get mum out. She's deleted her memory. They're on the train. They're home free.
Yeah.
But no, the director's there being a dick.
And so they have this fight scene in the train, you know, to the death, basically. So, which is to be expected. And he wins a bit. They win a little bit. He wins more. The police come in on another train, you know, which was a great action sequence. That they came flying in and they attack the train. She sort of manages to get rid of them. The train comes off the tracks in the air as it does, and the director's kind of flung backwards and
explodes.
Yeah, explodes with the train as they're just escaping, right? And she again helps the mum, doesn't she, at the last minute?
Yeah, you get there's a rope thrown down, pulls her up,
and pulls her up. But in doing that, kind of, this is what we were saying before, there's the role reversal that she's saving the mum, not the mum saving the daughter.
Yeah, and you know at this stage the mum doesn't know that that's her daughter.
No.
But she still is moral.
Yeah.
And so, you know, she protects her because that's the correct thing to do. So it's nice to see that mum has still got a good sense of ethics going on there.
Definitely.
And we end up with, like a nice sort of closing scene, really, of the mum. Was it a new dawning day, and she's on the mountainside looking out at the whole horizon.
She does.
And it's like it's a pristine wilderness she's in, which is very different to every other scene, which has been metropolitan or internal or so forth. And here she is looking totally robotic, no human skin on her.
No.
And, it's that clean slate, fresh start. And we have a voiceover with the daughter saying that she had to let her, remove herself and let her mum finally be free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I was feeling that conflict of like, oh, okay, it's kind of cool that you've released this slave, basically, this person who's going to be downtrodden, exploited. But it's weird that it's the daughter that did it, and it wasn't the mum who wanted better for her generation. It's just that was kind of strange there.
And knowing that the daughter is dying, like she's probably just going to die.
Yeah, that's just her, and like maybe she'll be a C.
Yeah, but I think it was implied. I feel like earlier with the doctor and that, it was implied she's not going to say, she's not going to sign up. She's just going to die. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was all about, then if you think about what you said earlier, the bookends of really the mum being locked in that prison of like a
robot fights,
fight, die, fight, live, die, repeat. At the end, she's now free in a mountain in a new body, fresh start.
A fresh start.
Yeah. So that's the plot points. What did you guys think out there in podcast land? Did we hit the right plot points? Is there anything that stuck out to you? Any kind of key parts? It's a pretty cool sci-fi action sort of film, but with a lot of substance with the mother-daughter. I'd also say, because it wasn't that long ago, I just watched Train to Busan, that obviously the filmmaker has a thing about parental and children. Yes. Because really that film, without talking about that film, it is really about a father-daughter story. Yeah. And this film is really about a mother-daughter story. So, and then he's just set it in these
I just
weird worlds.
Gave a spoiler for it too, but I won't.
No, that's what I mean. We won't talk about Train to Busan.
It's a great film.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. So it's a he's obviously got a parental theme, is what I was talking about myself before. Of like, you figure out your theme as a writer, as a director, and as an artist. What is it, the message you want to tell the world? And I think he obviously has a parental theme that he wants to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And then this is the vehicle that he's chosen to tell that story.
And I'd actually like to invite, we do have a couple Korean listeners, I happen to know. Maybe they could give us a bit of an insight into whether these features are somewhat Korean feeling, culturally, or if it's just, old, I'm sorry, fella. What's it? Yeon? Yeon. Listen to us struggle. It's really sad for us. We should probably go take some lessons.
We need
on
interpretations.
How to say things. Yeah, it's Yeon. Is this just purely his vision?
That's
because
right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the same. Even if you took Luke Spark occupation stuff, that there is an Australianism in it, right?
I was actually gonna mention
Korea. This
that.
is probably the Korean culture is in there, and in fact, isn't this the beautiful thing of Netflix? Is that we can see these films.
You actually get to see these things.
And if you're in Korea, you get to watch Occupation. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's great about it.
Because something actually that got me about that other world. And also Occupation, and Occupation Rainfall in particular, is watching it, I realised I got a bit of a feeling of that whole, when you see representation of yourself.
Yeah.
Because, obviously we get all of the,
US stuff.
And you sort of go, oh yeah. But when you see one of these Australian ones where they're genuinely showing Australian cultural ideas, it feels like yes. Oh, like, ooh.
That is the attitude we would have.
The way the military acted in Occupation Rainfall, the way that those interactions, the way they spoke, and that had a very distinctly Australian feel. I was like, that is clearly not American. Like that scene would never play in any American film whatsoever. No. And likewise in other world, I think it's called. Ben C. Lucas.
Other Life.
Other Life? No, because there's a TV series called Other Life.
Anyway, Other Life?
Anyway, Other Life, Other World. Whichever one is, Ben C. Lucas, get in touch, correct us. But that one had a couple of scenes there, like with security guards and things.
Yes.
Which were likewise, it felt really genuine to me.
It did.
And I'm wondering here, Korean watchers, are you getting that from this? Are you going, this feels very close to home? This is the way this feels.
Yeah, no, and it was Other Life.
It was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Other Life. So, because that was the one that we did way back, and it's actually, to move into the ladder, it's on my recommendation to watch with this film.
Well, let's get into this ladder and tell us all about that.
I thought that Replicas would be an obvious one, being that Replicas is kind of about the whole, replicas,
Yes.
the repetition of characters. And I mean, I did think about Surrogates as well. I thought would be another cool one to maybe watch with this one. And I thought Other Life. So, because I just felt like with Other Life in particular, you had that mystery element, which this film also has a bit of a mystery element going on with the mother. As I said, like, there is that setup for the first half of the film that she was just this ultimate warrior, and so it made sense for them to want to replicate her for the military purposes. But then as we go into the second half of the film and you realise that they're not needing her to be that anymore, that maybe she'll become a sex bot and a house slave and whatever. But then it turns out, she actually was only in the military to save her daughter. And in fact, maybe she only died on the battle scene because she was so concerned about her daughter's surgery.
Yeah.
And so when all of that is revealed, it to me, that mystery, a bit similar to Other Life, that, remember Other Life, she wakes up and she's not sure who she is and where she's come from. And there's just that mystery sort of side of it. And I thought also Replicas would be a really great example of, films that are similar themed and similar on just as a similar feeling in those films. To me, that this film had.
Okay, so I did go for Occupation Rainfall.
Yep.
I think that's coming to Netflix.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an American Netflix at the moment.
Yeah, I think it is on Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
so.
Maybe just released. Anyway, so check that out. But that, likewise, I thought that was only because it's not... it's Western, but it's not Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's got a very
Hollywood.
fresh feel to it.
Yeah.
I would recommend Americans interested in Australian culture, maybe, or Koreans interested in Australian culture.
Yeah.
Check out that one. And then the other side of it, I had the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I thought was quite good because that was also... it's a similar thing, except instead of erasing someone else's mind to try and save them, have a fresh start, it's the characters that are erasing their own minds to try and save themselves and have a fresh start. And that ends with this like, we've got this fresh start. Don't know if it's the right fresh start or what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah. Cool. Yeah,
but and likewise, it's a bit of an independent, bit of a different sort of view.
Yeah, definitely.
On the world.
And so let us know where your ladder suggestions would be, or what other films do you think you should watch with this? And how about the science, sorry?
A bit of science here. So, I mean, obviously we've spoken a lot about artificial intelligences and mind uploads, but something that was interesting, I thought, and I've watched a fantastic short film called Slaughterbots. So it's a short film that is done as a presentation at a military weapons expo.
Right.
And it's this guy goes up on stage and he talks about the latest in lethal autonomous weapon systems. And it's a package of little drones which have got little like processing units and a small explosive charge on it. Yeah. And they all networked and linked back to this computer, and they're each independently capable of doing facial recognition and discovery. And so what you do is you just fly over your area,
kill zone,
and you drop these little drones out, like thousands of them, like it, and they present this package has got 500 drones in it, whatever, and they'll drop out and they fly around, and they will, based on the profile that you give, they'll seek out individuals that meet that profile and kill them. And there's like a little demonstration of one of these things hitting a dummy and explodes, and obviously sort of saying, so you can have them find the enemy combatants even if they're hiding in amongst civilians. It'll recognize guns and or other things, but it's kind of starts off sounding like, that would be kind of good. You could
be very accurate.
It's like a very pinpoint accurate bomb. But then it starts moving to this concept, though, that you could dump it on civilian cities and it will hunt down those people who exhibit the features of undesirable people. And you start going, oh, hang on, this is getting really sinister now, that you could just like have a normal metropolitan city and it's going and finds the bad guy. And it says, don't worry, they'll only target the bad guys. And you start looking at that thinking, this is like a dystopian nightmare.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
you could imagine that being proposed, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
If you just sort of go, we're fighting, this conflict.
Yeah.
Anyone who sort of their face comes up in our list of known enemy combatants, spot them and kill them there. But you're just sort of going, well, that sort of power then of, okay, anyone who matches this particular type, we don't like people who wear glasses. So if they've got a corrective factor greater than 0.2 on their glasses prescription, bang, they're out of here. And it's, it is a truly nightmarish scenario.
Yeah, for sure.
But in the real world, of course, we do have lethal autonomous weapon systems. And we've had them for a very long time. So the very earliest and simplest would be landmines from the 1600s, I think it goes back to where it's documented. Because a landmine... it doesn't require human interaction. It makes a decision whether it's going to explode or not and kill someone.
Yep.
The decision is like a pressure plate or a trigger that you manually step on.
Yep.
But that's no different than facial recognition. And there's gone to sea mines as well, which is sorts of things. Since the 1970s, our ships have had automated anti-missile systems, like a great big machine gun with a radar and tracking. They're okay. They're not really ethically a problem, because you sort of go, they're looking for fast-moving missiles coming into a ship.
Yeah.
So if you're getting close to land or something, you can just turn them off.
Yeah.
But it's highly unlikely they're going to mistake, a missile traveling at 800 kilometers per hour with a person walking around on a beach. So they're fine. No one's really had a problem with those, and they've worked well to defend ships from missiles and artillery shells and things. And in fact, it's kind of made a lot of anti-ship missiles pointless because you can shoot them out of the sky.
Yeah.
But then let's take this same concept, so a gun with some detection equipment on it, sitting so it can move all by itself, identify targets, and then decide to shoot. And going back to Korea, of course, they've got this big demilitarized zone, which is strangely named because there's actually the most militarized border in the universe. But it's the border between South Korea and North Korea, and it's how deep is it? I think, it's several kilometers deep. I don't know how far actually. Certainly, maybe let's call it 10 or so, 20 kilometers. It's fairly deep. There's a zone, isn't there? Yeah. It's a fairly big zone where basically no one's meant to go. That's what they've decided. Is no one from North Korea is going to come down. Honestly, I'm sure the South Koreans aren't as worried as that. But the problem is the North Koreans have a very big army. They've got a lot of soldiers. Even when you're saying. They're not really as well equipped, perhaps. In fact, they're definitely not as well equipped as the South Korean.
Probably a bit hungry as well.
But it's a 10-to-1 ratio. The South Koreans just simply don't have enough people with enough guns to fire enough bullets to stop. If they just all started marching in, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So they've got these automated turrets, but Samsung actually made them in part along with some university. I can't remember which. I should have looked up which university it was. They made these turrets. And they've got a machine gun on there and a grenade launcher and an infrared scope. And they say that humans, they give a warning. They'll vocally say, hey,
warning.
You're not meant to be there. I'm going to shoot you. You better identify yourself. And supposedly a human operator will be brought on board. And, when this thing says, oh, I found someone, and then the human operator has some sort of a choice. But there is a mode that they can set it to, which is automatic, which is basically, if it detects anyone, it shoots them. It's just... And the reason they've got this is because if there were to be a land invasion, they can basically flip a switch and go, okay, anyone in that direction, shoot them. Because none of them are friendly. And this is sort of, you sort of think, well, compared to a landmine, it's a little bit better, isn't it? Because it's at least points in a certain direction. You can turn it off.
Yeah.
You know where these guns are. You can disable them. Landmines, they have this tendency of hiding.
Yeah.
And most people don't use them. Although there's a few countries like America who said, we're going to use them anyway.
Yeah.
They do have rules around, mapping out where the landmines are and being sure that they can clean up afterwards, because I don't think they want to just leave landmines around the place killing people.
No.
But, the automated gun turrets. They've got in Israel a similar problem. Israel is surrounded by enemies, basically. They don't have enough troops with enough guns and enough bullets. If a number of those surrounding Arab nations decide to just cross the borders, they just don't have enough people. So they've actually said that they actually have manned people monitoring at all times. So they're not just an automated system, and they don't have an autonomous mode. They're always, a remote control. There's a person there controlling it. And they said that they've shot a few people. That they have been used, but they said the most part, what happens is there's just these sort of, they're an armored dome until they detect something, and then this dome sort of unfolds. And they said that it's quite noisy, and usually anyone who sees this dome unfolding and there's like this great big machine gun something, they surrender or back off or do whatever. Like they found that it's a very good deterrent, because it's quite a scary looking thing, just having a gun turret suddenly reveal itself and start aiming towards you. You don't. Also, because you can't see a person there, I don't think it's like, no, please don't shoot me. It's like, it's just, I don't know. Is there someone watching me, or is this thing just going to start shooting? Yeah. And this, of course, leads me to there are currently no bans on autonomous weapon systems. So there's a lot of nations have said they don't like it and they shouldn't be used, and they've sort of made pledges that they're not going to do it because the problems being raised are, similar to landmines, I suspect. Because if you've got a turret which it sits still, that's probably not so bad, because it's only got a certain range. You can disconnect its power. But if you have something that can move,
a drone.
You start going, okay, well, here's like this thing that's gonna, and there are some automated or semi-automated tank tread-based things with a machine gun on it, which they use to go in, maybe for mine sweeping and bombs and going into dangerous areas where they need to, get a camera and a gun and just sort of go, hey, we're being dangerous here. But you could imagine, though, that a bit more computing power going on there, and they do start just making their own decisions. They become like landmines. Like, if they mess up, and they just go rogue, you're just going to have this thing it's going to unerringly hit, because don't be fooled by the movies where like these robots, they shoot and they just miss everything. Because they don't. They have like, range finders and depth perception, and like they will unerringly hit with their bullets. That's, unless you're like a missile traveling up 2 times the speed of sound, you don't have a chance. So that would be a concern. Another concern they have, and I'm interested, I haven't thought too much about this, but they say it removes a human element from the decision to kill, which makes it easier to do. Except I would have thought then, wouldn't the answer be, let's just don't kill anyone? But they're trying to say it becomes easier to go to war because you don't have to risk your soldiers.
That's right.
Not only physically, but mentally. Because you just, as this Slaughterbots video showed, you just fly over, drop off all these drones, and you just fly off and just leave them to it. And come back in, that the battery will only last for a week or 2 days or something. So you just drop them all there, come back in a couple of days. The drones will have dropped out of the sky, maybe self-destructed. But in the meantime, they've just sort of done a seek and destroy of anyone and everything. And you're just like, that's why, you can imagine Russia wouldn't invade Ukraine. Even invading Ukraine, I think Russia was kind of like, do we really want to lose troops? Is that worth it? If they could have just lobbed a bunch of these killer drones over, they would have done that in a heartbeat. They would have been doing that the whole time. Particularly because you could just deny it. Oh, well, we didn't do that. Terrorists or something. So anyway, that's an interesting application here because in Jung-yi, that's what they're doing. They looks like they've got these killer robots, which just making their own decisions to kill. And yeah, I think that's quite terrifying. It also means you could just buy victory, couldn't you?
Yeah, basically. Which is like what people can do. I mean, like Russia, Ukraine have stood up to Russia more than I think anyone ever thought, but they have been funded and fueled by
the rest of the world.
The rest of the world. So, they've been given weapons and stuff. But, I mean, they have stood up themselves. Like, they have stood up to a giant bully, basically. And they, like you were just talking about, they don't have the numbers. They don't have, on paper, they shouldn't be, standing up to them. But, yeah, they've had some of those weapons given to them from the US and even Australia been given tanks and things. So, yeah, it is a money buys it all, isn't it?
But there's always war weariness, isn't there? Because you'll get to the point where the Russian people will just sort of say, you're just churning our kids into the mincemeat.
Yeah.
Like,
that's right.
There's going to be some point where enough of them will just sort of say, well, let's just stop sending our people there. It's not getting the effect that we wanted. But if you can just keep going to the factory, creating more killbots.
That's right.
You can always make more killbots. I was just watching Futurama actually earlier, and that scene came up. We talked about the killbots. Yeah, and you just keep sending them. Like, you could almost have like an automated factory at that point, where it just becomes like
the robots,
the Terminator.
The
robots just make the robots, and you just point them at the other country, and they just keep rolling out until the other country just capitulates.
Yes,
because they don't have the funding to withstand it, and your people aren't being exposed to this warfare, so you can easily just propaganda them and say, "Oh no, we're not fighting.
Yeah,
there's no war." But in the meantime, killbots are killbotting.
Killbots are killbotting.
Yeah, as they go.
It is horrifying, isn't it? And I mean, that's the thing. You could have potentially one or two Jung-yi military warriors, their military, combats and understanding of attacking other people, and then they're controlling the killbots, right?
Yeah.
And so they use their intelligence to go into zones and take out the enemy, but no life is risked. So
I think there's a lot of good questions around what we should do with artificial intelligence and autonomous things. Like, because I mean, I don't mind them taking my job, but I do mind them wandering the streets just killing everyone. That's going a little bit further than what I would like to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and I mean, I did see the other day that there was that Australian research paper that I think it's China is leading, I think 38 of the 44 what they call future technologies. So, and that includes a lot of things like artificial intelligence and etc. So, they're leading versus the US on a lot of those intelligent factors that will, you say resources or money. Well, it's also in who invents that technology first as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you get the first movers advantage or whatever it's called.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even the Americans with the nuclear bomb, like once they invented that made them a superpower in a way, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stamped their authority, because anyone goes, well, if you attack them, they could detonate a nuclear bomb back on you.
Yeah.
So it's the same with these killbots ideas. Like if you knew they had killbots, you'd be like, we kind of need killbots. Or what do we do if they unleash their killbots? Like how many killbots do they actually have?
Yeah.
And as you said, if you know they've got a factory that can just churn out millions of killbots, you're like, I don't think we want to fight them.
Yeah, no, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Again, it changes everything, yeah.
So that was Jung-yi and artificial intelligent killbots.
That's right.
How about you let us know what you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Get in touch with us. You can check us out on our social media, the integrations. What the heck? I've got integrations in my brain.
You do.
Instagram.
Send some AI
Facebook. You can email us. You can jump on and find our contacts and direct message if you like.
Yeah, wherever you listen to your podcast, maybe give us a review or a rating, or just share it with a friend.
Yeah, recommend us to a friend. If you know some people into science fiction or making films,
come to the festival. There'll be more information by the time this episode's released, so stay tuned. Buy a ticket, come and listen, attend the workshops, and watch some cool sci-fi.
And what's next episode?
We're going back to 1985, which is set in the future. It's called The Quiet Earth.
The Quiet
It is available on Amazon if you're following along at home, or other places probably. But yeah, it is on Amazon. I definitely know that. So that will be our next episode of Spacebrains.
I look forward to it.
I do too.
See ya.
Bye-bye.